Hello and welcome to a drawn guide for the Division 2. This is going to be part of a Dark Hours raid guide and it's going to focus on the first boss, Boomer. Now the reason I wanted to do this was with Title Update 5 and the introduction of Discovery difficulty, I imagine there'll be an influx of people trying the raid out for the first time, which is great. But the Dark Hours raid can be pretty hard. It can definitely have a pretty sudden and unexpected increase in difficulty for a lot of people that take part in it for the first time. So they kind of just show up and step inside, leaving any shred of sanity behind, and then the door slams behind them, and then they almost immediately get crushed by the difficulty and complexity of the raid. That's not a problem. It's meant to be difficult, but it can hit hard if you're not prepared, so hopefully this will help. This is the basic layout of the room you see in front of you. You've got this cover section in the center here. This pillar is just huge, you can't go through that, but you can take cover against these corners here. That's going to be useful, so feel free to use that coming up later. There's also cover up the back here. That's not much good to you. Your enemies are kind of going to use that a lot. They're going to be running around there, so it's good to be aware of, but you're not really going to use that yourself unless you get into trouble. Now the next thing you'll see is that there are doors that I've marked. These entry points aren't really much use to you, but they are useful for callouts, so indicating to your teammates where something is happening. So if you want to indicate something's happening at the front right of the room, you might be yelling 40. Other than that, there's not much to note there. Some enemies come in from these doors as well, but that's it. Now the first major feature you're going to want to be aware of are the miniguns. There's one in the back right and one at the front left. Now, these miniguns are different from your regular miniguns that you encounter in the open world. They look the same, but the most notable difference is that they have a much narrower cone of fire. So it's not like the ones you encounter at control points and stuff where you can shoot like in a full 180-degree arc. That does not happen. Instead, you can really only shoot across. And it's going to become important. We talk about that in the strategy. We refer to these miniguns by the number of the door behind them, so 41 and 45. Oops, I forgot to get rid of that circle, sorry. By the minigun numbers. So there are doors behind these ones as well, kind of like these doors down here, and they've got numbers above them. There are also numbers written all over these miniguns, like there's a number on the front, there's a number scrawled on the screen behind it, there's like usually like a banner hung here with 41 and whatever, so it's kind of hard to miss which minigun you're at. So just call out the numbers when you're wanting to refer to those specific miniguns. The next thing I wanted to talk about are the shield pillars. So there are 4 kind of towers or pillars around the room and they emit a shield. Now these are important because when enemies are in them, they cannot be damaged. You can be damaged, it's very fortunate for them that way, but they can't be. So if an enemy is ever standing within these kind of blue circles here, your bullets aren't going to do jack to them. Even the minigun bullets will not do anything. The only thing that can happen is that you need to take these towers down, and the only thing that can do that is the miniguns. So you can't even shoot the towers themselves or the pillars. It has to be the miniguns that do that. It's the only thing that can damage them, and when they go down, the shields will be removed, and you end up in a much nicer situation to deal with. I don't exactly know why there are 2 miniguns and a bunch of shield pillars lying around, but there are. What the heck possessed them to install this equipment in the middle of an airport lounge anyway? Like, were there just 2 Black Tusk officers standing around one day, and one of them says, "Did you know that we left 2 giant miniguns near the entrance?" And the other is like, no. So the first says, "Well, we should probably dismantle them or something. Seems like they could do some serious damage if they were used against us." But the other is all, wait. What if, instead of dismantling the miniguns, we build a bunch of shield towers to protect us from bullets? That seems like it would be way more expensive than but the shield pillars won't protect themselves from bullets. Wait, what? Only the minigun bullets, though. The miniguns that we didn't dismantle, yes. I really think we should just giant shield pillars! Anyway, I'm getting off track. The point is there are shield pillars and miniguns in the room for whatever reason, and you need to be aware of both of these. Now, the last element I wanted to talk about are the screens and the matching laptops. These are located in each corner of the central kind of cover point, but the laptops can only be interacted with from inside the cover, and the screens can only be seen from outside the cover. So it's impossible for one person to kind of cover off everything at once. You'll need people kind of keeping an eye on these screens from the outside And when they notice what happens there, people will need to interact with the laptops on the inside. How do you know what laptops to interact with? Well, what's going to happen is each of these laptops has a letter associated with them. You've got A, B, C, and D. And the screens kind of look like this. And throughout the raid, what's going to happen is letters will light up on them. So you might see C light up. If that happens, you're going to need to yell out C, and it means that someone needs to interact specifically with C laptop within a certain time limit. I can't remember exactly what the time limit is, but it needs to be done quickly. If that doesn't happen in time, your shield pillars come back and they start emitting their shields again. You need to get back on the minigun and start taking those suckers out. So it kind of resets you a bit. It's going to make it more difficult because suddenly your enemies can take cover within those. But yeah, basically you want to try and deal with this as quickly as possible. Ideally, you want to interact with those laptops before the time limit happens so that your shield pillars never even come back. As the raid continues to progress, you're actually going to get multiple laptops become active as well. So instead of just C lighting up, you might get C and B. And you'll need to oh, that's A, that would be useless to you. You'd need to get people to go to B and C and interact with that. The laptops don't need to be interacted with exactly in sync. You can have your buddy hit it a second after you hit yours, that's fine. As long as they're all hit within the time limit, that's all that matters. Alright, so with all that in mind, let's actually run through the strategy for approaching this boss. So you're going to enter from 42, or it could be 43 actually. I don't remember. It's not important. You'll enter from like this end down here, and the room is going to be empty. So you're going to have some time to get your bearings, have a look around, figure out where the miniguns are, find your shield pillars, that sort of thing. And then what's going to happen is your shield pillars will be up to start with, and then you'll want to get 2 people on the miniguns, one on 41 and one on 45. And ideally you want to try and synchronize both of you to shoot these shield pillars out all at the same time. So 41 will take out the bottom 2, and then 45 will take out the top 2. And the reason that you want to do that is because as soon as any single shield pillar takes damage, it is going to spawn the first wave of enemies. Now they're going to enter from the doors around, actually not there to start with, around the room, and there's just going to be about 6 to start with. They're usually elite enemies, you'll need to deal with them, and then once you've dealt with that wave, that's when the raid really kicks off, and our star of the show enters, Boomer, from the back door here. Now, I want to talk a bit about Boomer, because he has a few elements to himself that are important to be aware of. The first is that he's got a chest piece. Of course, he's got a chest. He's got a piece on his chest that actually heals him. When it lights up green, it means he's healing. You can damage that with regular bullets at any time as long as he's not in a shield pillar section thing. But that will only be temporary and will light up again later. Anytime you hit that, it will give him a slight stagger, so that can be useful if you want to hold him still, but you'll need to take that out to stop him from healing back to full health. Otherwise, so apart from the fact that your bullets can damage that, your bullets can't actually damage any other part of him while he's up and running around. He's completely immune. The only other part of him that can take damage is his backpack, and that can only take damage from the miniguns. So what it means is that you have to hit the miniguns with the backpack, and when that happens, he'll drop down and you can start pummeling him full of bullets. And finally, his weapon is a battering ram. Yep, that's right, you heard it correctly. It is a battering ram. I don't know why he's got that. For whatever reason, he walks into the room armed with all the defensive gear in the world and what is essentially just a big stick. I don't know how that happens. Like, a Black Tusk officer just walks up to him and is like, "Hey, Max, call me Boomer." Sure, whatever. Anyway, we got you this. Thanks. Yeah, no worries. What is it? It's a battering ram. What? A battering? What the fuck am I supposed to do with a battering ram? Oh, we want you to go kill 8 division agents. Are you serious? You want me to take what is effectively a glorified, expensive metal club into a room of fully armed division agents and beat them to death with it? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we kinda gave all the miniguns to Weasel and his crew. Besides, imagine how hilarious it will be to watch you squish clonk!
And apparently Boomer has a bad Cockney accent. That's not important for the raid.
So yeah, Boomer has a battering ram and he wants very much to hit you over the head with it. Now, Boomer's going to target a single person at a time, and you know he's targeting you when an eye appears on your screen. So that will be nice and big. It's usually red, and it should be fairly obvious. It appears somewhere near the center of your screen. But also, there will be an eye next to the name of the person he's targeting. So the list of agents in the bottom right of your screen, there'll be an eye next to one of them. And that means Boomer particularly wants to hit them more than anybody else. He's playing favorites. Now, what happens is when Boomer is targeting you, or I shouldn't get rid of that eye actually, when you see that eye, it means that he's going to chase you. And as you might remember, his backpack is the only part that can take damage, and it has to take damage from a minigun. So that means that when you see that eye, you want to run. So let's say he's coming from here. You'll be running down here, and you'll take him out the front of minigun 41. And you probably want to say a call out there. You're going to say something like, I take him to 41, or I'm taking him to 41 now. Can we have someone on 41, please? Somebody else will hopefully call out saying they're on 41. And yeah, once he gets down to here, you'll then run in a line along that way. Because remember that our minigun shoots in a very narrow cone of fire. So you run in a line. Now, in all likelihood, that will be enough time for the minigun to knock him down, to take out the backpack and to knock him down. So one single run across should be enough, as long as you've got someone on the gun by the time you get down here. What happens then is that once his backpack breaks, he drops down to one knee, and you want everybody to hit him in the head. You want to call out something like down or DPS, something to indicate that Boomer's down and everybody needs to stop whatever they're doing and fill his head full of lead immediately. Because the longer it goes on, the more problems you're going to encounter. We'll cover that in a moment. Now, while that's happening, keep in mind that, hopefully your shield pillars are down by then. Obviously, if he went down within the shield pillar, that's going to be a problem. Although on that note, if your shield pillars are up, keep in mind they don't cover the whole area, so it is possible to knock Boomer like here, and then you can kind of all manage to hit him because he's not technically in the shield pillar zone, but, you know, that's more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, your shield pillars should be down, so making sure the whole time this is happening, people are keeping an eye on these screens, calling out the letters that are coming up, so that if they're seeing A come up, you know, people are running to it and interacting with it and whatever, and people know that they need to be interacting with those things, because that way your shield pillars are just never going to arise again, and you're just not going to have to deal with that issue. So, other than that, you kind of just want to repeat that formula of whoever's being targeted by Boomer running in front of a minigun and running along so that the minigun can take him out. One thing to note is that after Boomer gets up again, he's going to lob an EMP grenade at whichever minigun took him out, which will temporarily disable that minigun, which means you'll basically want to be swapping between each minigun so that, you know, you use this one and then you go and use that one, and then you just keep alternating between them basically. The other thing too is that whoever is on the minigun that downs him will be the first person targeted by him. So you can kind of use that to predict who's going to be the first target, but otherwise he'll just swap randomly between whoever he wants to hit most. Now, the reason you want to be efficient with this is because after a certain amount of time limit, he's actually going to run up to a minigun. He's going to figure out that these things are very bad, and he's going to take them out, or he's going to take one of them out. And that means you're nearing the end of the time limit in which you can actually kill Boomer, because shortly after he takes one out, a couple of minutes later, he's going to run around and he's going to take out the other one. And if that happens, it means your raid is basically done. There's no way of completing it at that point. You need to all die and reset the Boomer fight and come in and start all over again. Because as you'll remember, the miniguns are the only things that can take his backpack out, which allows him to take damage. So you need those to stay up. If you lose one, it's not necessarily a problem. It just means you're going to have to rely purely on the single lane
in order to deal him damage, which means when he deactivates it with a jammer grenade, you're going to have to kind of entertain him for a while until you can bring him back to the same gun.
The only other thing to note about this raid is that there will be NPCs, or ads, whatever you call them, running around the map, just generally being a nuisance. They're not, a big issue on their own, but they can add up quickly and really start taking people down. The main thing you need to watch for is that they're not bothering people on the minigun, especially because they can only, fire in such a specific direction. If the people in the miniguns are getting hit from the side, then they could get taken out when you need them to be there. So basically, if you're not currently leading Boomer or dealing damage to Boomer, make sure you're taking out the NPCs so that they're not causing a problem for anyone else. So that's it. Keep leading Boomer around in a circle, hit his backpack with the miniguns, send him down, fill his head full of lead, rinse and repeat, lead him around to the next minigun, and just keep doing that, watching your laptops until he's done. Once he's dead, you need to make sure you clear all the remaining NPCs because the raid won't clear otherwise, so don't celebrate too early. But after that, well done. You've completed the first boss of the Dark Hours raid, and you're a quarter of the way through the whole thing.